Hi, and welcome to another episode of Collectibles Chat. I'm Steve Zarelli. Thank you for joining me. I am a professional autograph authenticator. I authenticate space, astronaut, cosmonaut, and aviation autographs for collectors, dealers, and auction houses worldwide. On Collectibles Chat, I like to talk about authentication, autographs, and all kinds of collectibles that may strike my fancy. Comic books is also a passion of mine. I've been collecting them for a long, long time, and that's something that I like to cover here as well, various topics in that hobby. In our last episode, I discussed a Fantastic Four number 49 and a Journey into Mystery 85, two big key books that I was sending in for grading. Well, I have them back, the results are in, and I'm going to share that with you in a few minutes. But first, I wanted to touch on another topic, and that's the issue of professional comic book grading. Pro comic book grading has been around since the early 2000s. It's become an integral part of the hobby, especially when you have prices that are rising so much. So much value can hinge upon the slightest grade increment. And of course, like all hobbies, when there's money involved, the fraudsters come out, and there's a lot of fraud involved too. So in my opinion, there's two credible professional comic book grading companies. There's CGC, which is kind of the pioneer. They've been around since the early 2000s. And then there's CBCS, who is a newer entrant to the field. But a lot of folks that used to work at CGC are at CBCS. It's owned by Beckett, and it's a very credible company in my opinion. So between CGC and CBCS, in my view, the grading and the restoration detection are comparable. They're pretty much the same. There might be, a disagreement here and there, but for the most part, you're buying a product from folks that know what they're doing. And I have plenty of slabs from both companies. And in my view, they're very, very consistent. Now, you could make the argument that CGC books tend to get a little bit more of a premium. Well, that's because they've been around a lot longer. They're really entrenched in the field. It's with autograph authentication, it's like a similar situation to PSA. They were the first ones out of the gate. They got a lot of loyal customers. And even though there's other credible authenticators out there, a lot of collectors still kind of go to PSA. Well, it's the same thing with CGC. But online in a lot of the forums, you'll see, stuff like, oh, CGC is great and CBCS sucks, and vice versa. You see it both. But quite honestly, that's just partisanship, in my opinion. They're both credible companies. They both do a good job. While there might be a little bit of a premium difference with CGC over CBCS, I think that gap will close over time. So in my view, they're both companies that, you could use, and you shouldn't worry about the quality of the product that you're getting. Now, there are at least one other comic book grading company out there. I'm not going to get into that, but I don't consider them credible. There's no transparency there, and that's a situation that would totally avoid. The prices might be cheap and the turnaround times might be good, but it's definitely a situation where you get what you pay for. So getting back to the two books that I reviewed in episode 17, that I submitted. At the end of episode 17, I mentioned that I was probably going to submit them to CBCS. I ended up actually submitting them to CGC, and there was a couple reasons for that. I looked at the turnaround times, and then I saw that CGC had some custom labels that interested me. So even though CGC was a few bucks more, there wasn't a huge difference, and I ended up deciding to send them to CGC. I sent them off, and they were received at CGC on January 20th. That's when they actually went into the mailroom there. They were not opened, though, until January 24th. So they sat there a few days before they were opened. They were at the walkthrough level. So they went into the CGC system on January 24th, and they immediately went into grading, and they were shipped back out on the 26th. So it was a true walkthrough. It was at CGC for about 2 days once they were opened. So kudos to CGC. They really did perform, and the walkthrough timing was pretty good with these two books. So I have no complaints there whatsoever. So the first book is Fantastic Four 49. Now, in the last video, I estimated that this one would land around an 8.5. I said maybe 9.0 on a really good day. There was a little tiny crease at the top that kind of made me like not entirely sure where it would land. I thought 8.0 was too low, but you never know. But my official guess was an 8.5. And the results are in. And there we go. The Fantastic Four 49 landed right at an 8.5 as I estimated. Looks fantastic in the slab. The custom label, the vintage Fantastic Four label looks great. I'm really glad that I went for that. And actually, as you can see, it's the same exact graphic that's on the bottom of the book. So it's a custom label that exactly matches the book, and I think that one turned out pretty good. Very pleased with the grade on this, and nice job, CGC. So the second book, Journey into Mystery 85, I estimated this one would probably be around a 6.0. It was a book that was initially had a little bit of waviness to it. It had some mild bends and stuff. So I did have the Journey into Mystery 85 pressed. The Fantastic Four 49 wasn't pressed. There was nothing that needed to be corrected on that. But the 85 I thought would benefit from a pressing, if for nothing else, just really aesthetic reasons. And the pressing came out pretty good. I had it done by somebody else. I didn't have that done at CGC. And but there was still a couple of light but long creases, and I was like, geez, I don't know where, while the eye appeal of this book was really nice, because of some of the creasing that, the pressing can't remove, I wasn't exactly sure where this one would land. But my guess was a 6.0. And I'm very pleased to report that we got a 6.5 on the Journey into Mystery 85. Really pleased. It looks great in the slab once again. I went for the label, which has, Thor. That is a Journey into Mystery 83 graphic there. So it looks great on this book. Very pleased with it. And, pleased to add these back to my collection now slabbed. And I'm glad that they're back home. So overall, a good experience with CGC. I think my grading is usually really pretty close to spot on. And this time it worked out. Actually, one graded a little higher than I thought. So that's it. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this reflection on getting some books graded, and also, a little chit chat on the comic book grading companies that are out there. Until next time, happy collecting. Have a great day.